The clock on the wall showed 14:23 when everything changed forever. Captain Lee Seung-go sat at his desk in the Seoul Defense Command, reading through the morning reports. The coffee in his cup was still warm. Outside, the city hummed with its usual afternoon energy, then every screen in the building went black. Lee Seung-ho looked up from his papers, confused. The emergency lighting flickered on. Around him, other officers were staring at their dead monitors with the same puzzled expression. Someone called out that the phones were down too. That was when the symbol appeared. It was unlike anything human eyes had ever seen. The shape seemed to move even though it was still, pulsing with a dark energy that made people feel sick just looking at it. The symbol filled every screen in the building, every television, every phone, every computer monitor on Earth. Then came the voice. It spoke in perfect Korean to Lee Seung-ho, in perfect English to the Americans, in perfect Mandarin. To the Chinese, cold and mechanical, without any trace of emotion or warmth. Species designation. Human. Planet designation. Earth. You have been observed. You have been judged. Lee Seung-ho felt his blood turn to ice. Around him, his officers had gone completely silent. Even the air conditioning seemed to stop humming. Aggressive expansion and unpredictable nature pose a threat to galactic stability. You will surrender your planet and submit to integration into the hegemony within 30 of your solar rotations. The captain's hand moved slowly to his sidearm, though he knew it would be useless against whatever was speaking to them. Failure to comply will result in corrective pacification measures. This is your only warning. The symbol vanished. The screens went back to normal. For a moment, nobody moved. Then chaos erupted. Officers shouted orders. Phones rang constantly. Red lights flashed on every panel. Lee Seung-ho grabbed his secure radio and called his superior. The line was already busy with similar calls from around the world in Geneva. Secretary General Park Min-ae was in the middle of a routine UN Security Council meeting when the message arrived. The diplomats from different nations stopped arguing about trade agreements and stared at the screens in horror. Some of them started crying. Others began praying in their native languages. Park Min-ae stood up slowly, her hands shaking. She had spent 20 years in diplomacy, always believing that any problem could be solved with talk and compromise. But this was different. This was not a negotiation. This was a demand for surrender. We need to contact every world leader immediately, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. This is not a drill. Across the Pacific, Admiral Kim Tae-hein was inspecting his fleet at the Yokosuka Naval Base when the alien message played. He did not hesitate. Before the transmission even ended, he was shouting orders to his staff. Battle stations. All ships to battle stations. I want every submarine we have underwater in 15 minutes. Get me the Prime Minister on the line. His sailors moved with practiced efficiency, but Kim Tae-han could see the fear in their eyes. We're trained to fight other humans, not aliens with technology beyond their understanding. In Moscow, Dr. Choi Ha-jin was in her laboratory studying samples from Mars when the message arrived. As Earth's leading expert on the possibility of alien life, she had always dreamed of making first contact, but not like this. It's never like this. She stared at the alien symbol on her computer screen, trying to understand its meaning. The mathematics were wrong. The geometry was impossible. It seemed to exist in more dimensions than human minds could process. Her phone rang. It was the Kremlin. Dr. Choi, we need you here immediately.
I bring everything you have
On extraterrestrial life. Within hours, deep space monitoring stations around the world detected them. The alien fleet emerged from hyperspace like ghosts becoming solid. The ships were massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They looked like crystal cathedrals floating in space, their surfaces reflecting light in ways that hurt to look at. The numbers were terrifying. Conservative estimates put the fleet at over 3,000 vessels. Each one was the size of a small. City President Yang Dong-woo addressed the American people from the Oval Office, his face grave but determined. My fellow Americans, we face a threat unlike any in human history. But America has never bowed to tyranny, and we will not start now. In Beijing, Premier Lim So-young activated every defense network in Asia. Military bases went on high alert. Now nuclear submarines dove deep. Fighter jets took to the skies. The message was the same everywhere. Humanity would not surrender. But as the first day ended and the alien fleet took position at the edge of the solar system, everyone knew the same terrible truth. Earth's weapons were designed to fight other humans. The aliens had traveled between stars. They had technology that could make their voices heard on every device on Earth simultaneously. Lee Sung-ho stood on the roof of his command center, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien minds were deciding humanity's fate. In 29 days, they would return for an answer. He thought about his daughter, asleep in her bed just a few miles away. He thought about all the children on Earth who would wake up tomorrow in a world where monsters were real and they were coming from the sky. The war for humanity's survival had begun. Day 15 arrived with silence. At exactly 6 a.m., every satellite orbiting Earth went quiet. The International Space Station lost contact with ground control. Weather satellites stopped sending data. GPS systems around the world displayed error messages. General Bae Min-jun stood deep underground in the Pentagon War Room, watching his communications officers struggle with equipment that had not been used in decades. The room was filled with old radio sets, telegraph machines, and computers from the 1980s. "Sir, we have lost all satellite communications," reported a young lieutenant, sweat beading on his forehead. Bae Min-jun nodded grimly. He was a career. The soldier who had fought in 3 wars, but nothing had prepared him for this. "They are not trying to destroy us," he said to his staff. "They are trying to make us helpless." The general was right. The aliens could have destroyed every satellite with weapons, but instead they had simply turned them off. It was a message: we control your technology. 6 hours later, the second demonstration began. Power grids across 6 continents failed. At the same moment, New York went dark. London fell silent. Tokyo's neon lights flickered and died. Moscow's subway trains stopped in their tunnels. Cairo's air conditioning units shut down in the desert heat. Billions of people found themselves in darkness without warning. Traffic lights died. Hospital equipment failed. Computer servers went offline. The modern world ground to a halt in an instant. But something unexpected happened. Instead of panic, people began to adapt. In Seoul, office workers walked down dark stairwells and continued their meetings by candlelight. Students gathered in parks to study together. Doctors performed surgery using flashlights and battery-powered equipment. Mrs. Kim Hairi, a grandmother in Busan, organized her neighbors to share food from their refrigerators before it spoiled. "We survived the war," she told them. "We will survive this too." In New York, people who had never spoken to each other before began organizing neighborhood watches. They shared batteries, food, and information. Amateur radio operators who had been ignored for decades suddenly became the most important people in the city. Dr. Shin Jae-woo was one of those radio operators. From his small apartment in London, he began broadcasting on emergency frequencies. His voice crackled through the static, reaching other operators around the world. "This is London calling. We are still here. We are still fighting. Pass it on." Message spread from radio to radio, city to city, country to country. A global network of resistance communication was born. Using technology the aliens had ignored because it was too old and simple to threaten. The alien response was swift and terrible. At exactly noon Greenwich Mean Time, a lance of pure energy struck down from orbit. Downtown Berlin vanished in a flash of light, replaced by a crater of melted glass and twisted metal. The heat was so intense that buildings 5 blocks away caught fire. 12 minutes later, Tokyo's business district disappeared. Energy beam carved through skyscrapers like a knife through paper. The sound of the impact could be heard 50 miles away. São Paulo was next. The beam struck the city center, turning concrete and steel into vapor. Millions of people watched in horror as their world's greatest cities became smoking ruins. Colonel Jun watched the attacks from his command bunker in Seoul. The screens showed satellite images of the destruction. transmitted through the old communication networks that still worked. His face was stone, but his hands shook as he held the reports. It could have destroyed entire countries. He told his superiors over the radio, "Dumb butt, they only targeted city centers. They are not trying to kill us all. They are trying to break our will." The aliens had made a calculation. They believed that destroying a few cities would terrify humanity into surrender. They expected mass panic, governments collapsing, people begging for mercy. Instead, they got anger. Every military base on Earth went to maximum alert. Nuclear submarines that had been hiding in the deep ocean surfaced and prepared their weapons. Stealth bombers took off from secret airfields. Soldiers who had been training to fight other humans suddenly had a new enemy. President Kang Hae-won spoke to the world from a secure bunker beneath Washington. His words were broadcast on every remaining television and radio network, translated into dozens of languages. "They think fear will make us submit," he said, his voice steady and calm. "They do not understand that fear makes us dangerous. They have shown us what they can do. Now we will show them what we can do." The message resonated across the planet. In Moscow, soldiers loaded nuclear warheads onto missiles. In Beijing, fighter pilots wrote letters to their families. In London, scientists worked frantically to understand alien technology from the few pieces that had fallen to Earth. Dawn came on day 22 with fire in the sky. The alien invasion fleet descended through the atmosphere like falling stars. Their ships were sleek and beautiful, glowing with energy as they cut through the clouds. The aliens inside those ships expected to find a broken world. They had studied human history and seen how civilizations collapsed under pressure. They expected to face scattered resistance from a demoralized enemy. Instead, they found humans who had spent 3 weeks preparing for war. The real fight was about to begin. The first alien soldiers dropped into Seoul at dawn, their silver suits gleaming in the morning sun. They expected to find a city of frightened civilians hiding in their homes. Instead, they found a fortress. Every apartment building had been turned into a sniper's nest. Every street corner had become a trap. The subway tunnels that once carried commuters now carried something much deadlier. Sergeant Park Soo-min crouched in the darkness of the underground tunnel, her rifle ready. Behind her, 5 soldiers waited for her signal. They had been living in these tunnels for a week, moving through the city like ghosts. "Remember," she whispered to her squad, "hit them hard and disappear. We are not here to win battles. We're here to make them bleed." The aliens above them moved in perfect formation, their energy weapons scanning for targets. They had conquered 12 worlds using the same tactics: land overwhelming force, secure key positions, accept surrender from the broken enemy. But humans did not break the same way. The first alien to die never saw it coming. Park Soo-min's bullet caught him in the neck, right between his armor plates. Before his body hit the ground, her squad had already melted back into the tunnels. The aliens responded with massive firepower, their energy weapons turning the street above into molten rock. But they were shooting at empty air. The humans were already 3 blocks away, setting up their next ambush. Lieutenant Nam Woo-sung had a different approach. He had barricaded himself on the 15th floor of an office building with 20 pounds of explosives. When the alien squad came to clear the building, he smiled and pressed the detonator. The explosion took out the entire floor and 8 aliens with it. Nam Woo-sung's last words, recorded on his radio, were simple: "Tell my mother I made them pay." The aliens had never faced an enemy like this. In their previous conquests, soldiers fought until their casualties reached 20%, then surrendered. These humans fought until every last one was dead. Dr. Hong Soo-jin had been a heart surgeon before the invasion. Now she used her knowledge of biology to create new kinds of weapons. She mixed hospital chemicals to make poison gas. She turned surgical tools into traps. She booby-trapped medical supplies so that when aliens tried to use them, they would die slowly and painfully. "They study our weapons," she told her fellow doctors as they prepared another trap. "But they do not study our minds. That is their mistake." Captain Yu Heron led a group of civilians who had volunteered to fight. They were teachers, shopkeepers, students, and grandmothers. None of them had military training, but all of them had rage. Her tactics were simple and brutal. When the aliens set up supply lines, her people would attack them with knives, hammers, and homemade bombs. When the aliens tried to establish safe zones, her volunteers would sneak in at night and kill guards with their bare hands. "We are not soldiers," she told her people. "We are the nightmare they never expected, the aliens." Weapons were powerful, but they had weaknesses. They needed clear shots to be effective. They required the user to stand still while firing. They made noise and light that revealed the shooter's position. Human fighters learned to use these weaknesses. They fought from sewers where the aliens could not get clean shots. They attacked from rooftops and disappeared before return fire could find them, used the ruins of their own cities as camouflage. Major Jang Sujin was fighting in London when he sent his report back to command. The message was transmitted through the old radio networks that still worked. "Enemy forces do not follow normal military behavior," he reported. "They continue fighting at 80% casualties. Continue fighting at 90% casualties. Individual units fight until completely eliminated. This is not normal warfare." The alien commanders were confused. They had studied human military history for centuries. They had seen the wars, the battles, the violence, but they had misunderstood what they were seeing. They thought humans were chaotically aggressive, animals who fought without discipline. They did not understand that humans were efficient killers who had spent thousands of years learning to kill other humans. Now they had a target that was not human, and all those centuries of warfare had taught them exactly how to do it. By the third month, the invasion had stalled. The aliens controlled territory on paper, but they could not hold it in reality. Every area they secured remained a battleground. Every position they established came under constant attack. Commander Quan Jihayan sent a message to resistance networks around the world. The aliens intercepted it, but the message was already spreading from radio to radio, city to city. "We are not fighting to win," he said. "We are fighting to make them regret coming here." In hidden laboratories around the world, scientists worked frantically with pieces of alien technology. Dr. Oh Min-young had been studying a captured alien weapon for weeks when she made the breakthrough. "It is not just a weapon," she told her team, excitement in her voice. "It is also a computer, a communication device, and a tool. They have integrated everything together." When she connected the weapon to her computer, something amazing happened. The alien device began downloading information. Technical specifications, battle plans, even communications between alien units. The aliens had made their technology so interconnected that capturing one device gave humans access to entire networks. They had handed humanity the keys to their own defeat. The war was about to change completely. The sun was setting over the Sahara Desert when Major Song Hai-1 climbed into the cockpit of something that should not have existed. The aircraft looked like a nightmare fusion of human and alien technology. Pieces of crashed alien ships had been welded together with human steel. Alien energy systems powered human weapons. It was ugly, dangerous, and completely untested. "Are you sure this thing will fly?" asked her ground crew chief, wiping sweat from his forehead. Song Hai-1 strapped herself in and looked at the controls. Half of them were alien symbols that glowed with blue light. The other half were human switches and buttons. "I have no idea," she said honestly. "But if it does not work, we are all dead anyway." 6 months had passed since the invasion began. 6 months of fighting in the ruins of cities, of hiding in tunnels, of watching friends die. But now, for the first time, humanity was ready to fight back. The engines roared to life. The hybrid ship lifted off the desert floor, sand swirling in all directions. Song Hai-1 felt the alien technology respond to her thoughts, as if the ship was reading her mind. It was terrifying and amazing at the same time. "This is Ghost 1. She radioed to the underground command center. "I am airborne. The ship is holding together." Below her, the desert stretched endlessly. Above her, alien patrol ships moved through the atmosphere like silver sharks. Song Hai-1 pushed the throttle forward and climbed toward them. The breakthrough that made this possible had come from Dr. Kim Yoon-soo, a computer programmer who had been studying alien technology for months. She had discovered something incredible about how the aliens communicated. Their entire civilization is connected, she had explained to the resistance leaders. Every alien device talks to every other alien device instantly, no matter how far apart they are. They share thoughts, memories, even emotions through their technology. But Dr. Kim had found a way to turn this strength into a weakness. When humans hacked into the alien network, they could send false signals that confused alien systems. They could make alien weapons misfire. They could crash alien computers. They could even make alien pilots dizzy and sick. The counterattack began at exactly midnight. In 7 different locations around the world, human forces struck back simultaneously. General An Hyun-woo led the assault on the alien staging areas in Europe. Colonel Yu-dan commanded the first squadron of human pilots, flying modified alien ships. The aliens had never faced anything like this. Their own weapons were being used against them, but these weapons had been changed by human engineers. Where aliens built their technology to last for centuries. Humans built theirs to cause maximum damage in minimum time. Human modifications to alien technology violated every rule of alien engineering. The aliens designed their energy weapons to fire steadily for hours without overheating. Humans modified them to fire 10 times more powerful shots that would burn out the weapon after a few minutes. The aliens built their ships to be efficient and safe. Humans stripped out the safety systems and crammed in more weapons and armor. The result was ships that could fight harder than any alien vessel, but would fall apart after a few battles. "We do not need them to last forever," explained the chief. "Engineer, we just need them to last long enough to kill aliens." Song Hai-won found her targets, a formation of 12 alien fighters patrolling the Mediterranean. They had not noticed her yet because her ship's alien technology made her invisible to their sensors. She armed her weapons and dove toward them. The modified alien energy cannons charged with a sound like thunder. When she fired, the beams were twice as powerful as anything the aliens had ever seen. 3 alien ships exploded instantly. The others scattered in confusion, trying to understand what was attacking them. Song Hai-won smiled grimly and chased after them. "This is Ghost One," she radioed. "I have confirmed kills. The modifications are working." Captain Lim Dong-won was leading a full squadron of modified fighters toward the alien fleet in orbit. His mission was simple, but dangerous. Break through the alien blockade and reach space. No human had been in orbit since the invasion began. The alien ships moved to intercept them, but they were not prepared for what they faced. The human pilots flew their modified ships like weapons themselves, ramming into alien vessels and detonating explosive charges at the last second. Member Lim Dong-hwan told his pilots, "We are not trying to survive this. We are trying to win this." One by one, the alien blockade ships were destroyed or disabled. For the first time in 6 months, human ships broke through into space. What they found there changed everything. The alien fleet was not just military ships. It was an entire civilization floating in space. Massive vessels the size of cities contained billions of aliens in suspended sleep. Scientists, artists, children, families all waiting for their military to conquer Earth so they could wake up and colonize their new home. The aliens had brought their entire species to Earth's solar system. They had put all their eggs in one basket. Believing their military was invincible, they were wrong. Lim Dong-hwan's voice crackled over the radio to Earth. "Command. This is Sky Leader. We are in orbit. We have visual on the entire alien fleet. They are all here. Every single one of them." The war was about to become something much bigger than anyone had imagined. 2 years after the first alien message arrived on Earth, Captain Lee Hai-young stood on the bridge of a ship that should not have existed. The vessel was a captured alien dreadnought, but it had been changed by human hands. Human weapons jutted from its hull like spikes. Human armor plates covered its alien curves. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Are we ready?" she asked her crew. Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Park Jin-woo, checked his instruments. "All systems are green, Captain. Modifications are holding." Li Haiyang nodded. The ship would not last long with all the changes they had made to it. The alien technology was being pushed far beyond its limits, but it would last long enough for what they had to do. "Take us out of hyperspace," she ordered. The stars shifted, and suddenly they were looking down at a green and blue world that had never known war. The planet below was called Kepler 44 to be by human astronomers, but the aliens called it home. 12 billion of them lived on its surface in crystal cities that sparkled like jewels. The communications officer looked up from his station. "Captain, we are receiving hundreds of transmissions from the planet. They are asking who we are and what we want." Li Haiyang remembered the day her own world had first heard from the aliens. She remembered the fear, the confusion, the desperate hope that maybe these visitors came in peace. "Send them the message," she said quietly. The transmission went out on all frequencies, in the alien language that humans had learned to speak. It was the same message that Earth had received 2 years ago, word for word. "You have 30 rotations. To surrender, failure to comply, will result in corrective pacification measures." The aliens on the planet below panicked. They'd never faced an enemy before. Thousands of years they had lived in peace while their military conquered other worlds. War was something that happened to other species, not to them, they begged. For negotiation, they offered tribute. They promised to withdraw from Earth if the humans would just leave them alone, Captain. Li Haiyang listened to their pleas through the translator. They sounded exactly like the human diplomats had sounded 2 years ago. Desperate, confused, hoping that reason could prevent disaster. "How long do we give them?" asked Lieutenant Park. 24 hours, she replied. That is more than they gave Berlin. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Park Suwon commanded a fleet of 200 ships. Half were captured alien vessels modified by human engineers. The other half were built from scratch using alien technology that humans had learned to improve upon. His target was the hegemony's industrial world, where they manufactured their weapons and ships. The planet had no military defenses because it had never needed them. The aliens had believed their military was invincible. The bombardment began at dawn. But these were not the precision strikes that the aliens had used on Earth. These were human tactics, learned from centuries of war. Against other humans, the first targets were power plants. Without electricity, the alien cities went dark. The second targets were water treatment facilities. Without clean water, the aliens began to get sick. The third targets were communication networks. Without communications, the aliens could not coordinate their response. "We are not trying to kill them all," Admiral Park explained to his officers. "We are trying to make them helpless, just like they did to us." The pattern repeated across 15 worlds. Each alien colony received the same ultimatum. Each was given the same brief time to surrender. Each was destroyed when they failed to comply quickly enough. Colonel Hong Jae-sung had spent months studying alien psychology. He understood that the hegemony's greatest weakness was not their technology. It was their minds. These beings had never faced an enemy that fought back effectively. They had never met a species that responded to conquest with total war. "Are used to winning," he explained to his psychological warfare team. "They do not know how to lose. That is why they will break." The final assault came 1 year later. General Shin Min-ho led the attack on the hegemony's home system. He was the same officer who had watched his family die in the first alien bombardment. Of Seoul, his wife and daughter had been vaporized in the attack on the city center. His forces did not just defeat the alien military, they dismantled their entire civilization. Alien survivors were relocated to small colonies under human supervision. The species that had once ruled thousands of worlds now existed only because humans allowed it. The last transmission from the hegemony's homeworld came as human ships approached the capital. It was a desperate plea for mercy, broadcast on all frequencies. "Please," the alien leader begged. "We surrender. We'll give you anything you want. Just let us live." Admiral Kim Sang-woo was commanding the final assault fleet. He had lost his brother in the invasion of Earth. His response was broadcast to every human ship in the galaxy. "You had 30 days to show us mercy," he said calmly. "You chose war. You chose extinction." The war ended with the complete destruction of the hegemony as a galactic power. The surviving aliens lived under human protection, but it was a protection that came with absolute obedience to human authority. Captain O.J. Han sent the final report from the former alien capital. The threat has been neutralized. The galaxy is secure. Earth remains free. The message that followed went out to every known civilization in the galaxy. It was simple and direct. This is Earth. We tried peace. You chose war. Choose carefully. In the end, they had sent a message of fear. Earth had replied with extinction.